Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. The first story is from John Smith. Naz and I were gripping our bicycle handles tightly as we stared into the misty woods. The time was past 3 a.m. and the woods looked spooky as hell. There was thick smog and we could barely see the ground or anything far away. Naz had made a bet that whoever crossed the woods at night to the other side first would be titled as the best rider. This bet was made too personal. When Naz declared the bet in front of the whole class there, he knew clearly that my crush would be listening. I brushed aside the thought and we started a countdown. I pedaled as hard as my legs could and charged forward into the woods, barely managing to miss the trees because I didn't have much visibility. These particular woods had a reputation for being haunted, which is why he chose this location. I pedaled hard and broke away from Naz, whom I couldn't even see in the smog anymore. At the end of the woods, Jake would be there waiting to see who the winner was. As I started pedaling hard, something got stuck in my chains and my bicycle started wobbling, and eventually the chain broke and I crashed on the ground. I tried to shake the dizzy feeling away but couldn't, yet I somehow managed to stand up by using the tree as leverage. I saw something faintly in the smog, a man running with something on his shoulders. I stood there for a few seconds to recover and I heard a noise of shoveling. I didn't know why, but I followed the sound and stopped as I saw someone digging a hole. This man was very hairy and had unkempt hair. Beside him was a long brown bag. It took me a second to get, but I figured it looked exactly like a body bag. I panicked and stepped on some twigs, which made this man stop digging and turn towards me. He saw me and lunged at me, and I started screaming and running. I didn't know where I was going, but eventually I stopped and hid behind a tree. I tried to catch my breath and I was panting now. Before I could react, I felt my neck being choked, and from the side this man appeared and screamed, "Who are you?" I struggled hard, but he was too strong. With all my strength, I kicked him in the groin and made a run for it. I heard his heavy footsteps chasing, and I just kept speeding ahead, not seeing where I was going, just trying to get away from this man. I tried to look back and saw he was almost catching up to me, and when I turned back, I saw a huge fallen log in front of me. I crashed into it and lost consciousness. I woke up with Naz and Jake calling to me and asked me what happened. I told them, and Jake said we should inform the police while Naz claimed I was bluffing since I had lost the bet. We made our way out and never returned to that place ever again. The second story is from James Luther. It was a quiet night and I was cycling back home after a late shift. I usually loved this time of the day since this was when the route I took was the quietest and peaceful. I always took the route through a park to cut my time going home since taking the road would be too long. During my journey, I rarely came across any other cyclist who used to ride at this time of the hour. Perhaps it was for the better since I liked my alone time, or perhaps it wasn't so. I made my way into the park one night and strangely, that time there wasn't much light. I thought some of the lamps stopped working, but since I had a small headlight on my cycle, it really didn't bother me. I also knew the layout of the park at the back of my head perfectly. As I was riding, I heard a noise behind me. I glanced back, and there was someone else cycling along my path, catching up to me. That was the first time I saw someone cycling at this hour, and I was curious to meet this person. He caught up, and I was taken aback by the way he looked. He looked like he was homeless. He had crooked teeth, long hair and beard, and clothes which looked like it hadn't been washed and sustained a lot of wear and tear. I was shocked to see his bicycle. It was an expensive one, which I couldn't even get if I worked for a year. I felt unsettled, not by the way he appeared, but the bicycle he was on. Those two images didn't add up. He started talking about the weather, and I politely replied. Then he started asking me more personal questions like, where did I stay, and where did I work? All of these made me very disturbed. I told him that these questions were making me uncomfortable, and he stopped. I was glad and got off at the end of the park to my route, and he did the exact same thing. I thought I was being paranoid, so I did what I read online once. To make sure someone was following you, go around a block or in a circular path. To my horror, he was still on my back, and whenever I glanced back to see if he was still there, he smiled back. During one of my glances back, I noticed that his nails had blood on them, and that started freaking me out. I increased my speed and could hear him do just that. I started panting and desperately looking for any way I could lose him. From behind me, he suddenly asked me if I was enjoying our ride together and maybe we should stop and catch a break. That was my breaking point. I freaked out and started pedaling as hard as I could, not looking back. I quickly remembered that there was a police station nearby, and I swiftly made my way towards there. I reached there and turned back and saw he wasn't following me anymore. I informed the police what happened and they took me home. Since then, I haven't heard anything about that man. The last story is from Maria Bush. I used to go out of the city near some canyons or some hills and practice going downhill and controlling my bicycle. I mostly did it to increase my control on uneven grounds and to have controlled descents. To find such tracks, I would venture out into some remote areas. This time around, I had heard of the news of a kidnapper who had escaped from prison and had taken refuge in some area close to mine. Cops were patrolling everywhere on the streets and some on the outskirts. I hadn't paid much attention to it since I was focused on my upcoming competition, and my only goal was to get as much practice done. I had located a secluded area where there was a steep hill and it was perfect to practice on. That morning, I reached the top of the hill and evaluated my path down. It felt a bit risky, but I thought I could do it, and I was up for a challenge. I readied myself and went ahead and started the descent down. This was proving to me more difficult than I had imagined, and I was struggling to gain control. Before I knew what happened, I crashed my back and went rolling down the rest of the way, eventually landing far away from my initial endpoint. I looked around the area and saw a small shack in sight and nothing else. I searched for my bicycle, which had landed near the shack. I was a bit reluctant at first, but slowly made my way near and surveyed my bike. It was damaged but still functioning. Then I heard the shack open with a thud, and out came a man whom I quickly recognized as the kidnapper from the news. I panicked and started running, pushing my bicycle along. I looked back and this man was limping but still hot on my trail. With the momentum, I tried to get on the bicycle and painfully pushed the pedal with all my strength. As I was struggling to pedal, he was throwing stones at me to knock me or disrupt me off the bicycle. Even though it was damaged, it still gave me enough speed to lose my pursuer. I had finally made it home and I was relieved. Later that night, I got to know that the kidnapper was found in an apprehended shack and apprehended on site. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Stay safe and have a great day.